Okay, hello everyone, and welcome to the webinar hosted by Team RigER this Thursday, June 11th. Thank you very much again for joining us today, and I see that not everyone is logged in yet, so I'll just wait for another couple of seconds for everyone to see what I see on the screen, which should be an opening slide of today's webinar that is dedicated to the oilfield purchases in RigER. So we will be talking about how one can make purchases, approve purchases in RigER, both on the desktop and on the mobile application. So while we're waiting, I'm going to introduce myself. So here I am. My name is Nikolai. I'm VP of Sales, Marketing, and Business Development. First, again, today's presentation is going to be about the oilfield purchases in RigER as a system. And you will be able to see both the desktop and mobile application of RigER and purchasing function. So quickly on the agenda and the lead hosts of today's webinar. So on the right-hand side, you can see myself. I'll be covering part of the topics, but the major contributor to today's webinar and the lead of it will be Gleb Kovitz, who's the VP of Operations at RigER. So between Gleb and I, we'll talk about the following things specifically in today's webinar. So we'll talk about the oilfield purchase cycle in general. We know that purchase is, pretty universal thing, but in oilfield it's a little different. So we'll talk about that, and we will in detail then dive into the oilfield RigER purchase module. So you'll see what kind of modules we have, and we will specifically talk about the purchase and from the beginning, that is the order through the bill of lading to the purchase invoice. So how basically you acquire an asset into your system through RigER. We will also touch base on the automation feature of the RigER purchase module. Interesting one that has been created specifically to help our users to make sure that they can generate documents faster. We'll talk about the mobile application and how that works. And we will also show some of the purchase reports, as well as provide some recommendations about how we sort of see the best way of implementing purchases in the oil field using RigER applications, both mobile and desktop. Okay, so let's move on. And the introduction of RigER, just again, to those of you who are new, what is RigER and where does it come from? So RigER is a flagship product of the Belka Health Corporation. We originate from Calgary, Alberta, in the hotbed of the sort of corporate headquarters of the oil patch in Canada. Our mission and vision and focus, as we identify it, we are striving to help small and medium-sized businesses in the oilfield industry to go paperless. We do provide customized solution understanding and appreciating the differences in everyone's business, and we do build on the integration. We understand that it's important in this day and age to integrate with many different systems because our customers have different preferences. So we do consider integrations as a core differentiator of our system, so you'll be able to enjoy that when you come on board. So what is RigER as a product? I mentioned that it's a flagship product, but what does it mean? So RigER actually is a platform that has both the cloud application, that is, you access it through a desktop computer with a permanent or the constant internet connection. So it's a setup in the cloud that is fully supported by the mobile applications. Now we have a suite of mobile applications depending on the functions of your operations in the oil field. So from the general dispatch to the sales to the operations and purchases, so you are able to do many different operations when you're in the field and connecting to your main cloud database through the internet. RigER also has a number of, based on the platform, so we've developed a number of user-specific or sub-industry-specific applications. So they include rental equipment distribution, the downhole tools solution, the waste management, the flowback, the telecommunication tools management and RigER, as well as the rig move. And on the right-hand side, you can see the map of our user distribution. So you can see a lot of them are in the two sort of general locations, the US and Canada, and in the US and Canada, so we can see where we are, and we are where the oil and gas industry is focused, the operations of it. So a lot of our customers are coming from Texas and other states of the United States as well as of late. So we're glad to see more of the US customers coming on board. And on that note, I wanted to show you what kind of companies, what exactly, not necessarily the kind, but what exactly the companies that we've been working and enjoying helping with the operations management. And they vary in terms of the size and the type of the equipment and the focus of the operations. So from the surface equipment, and you can see the list of different kinds of equipment, so you can see if you have yours. And even if you don't have yours on the list for some reason, we can assure you that we will be able to set up a system for you to be able to manage it in the system, because RigER is a pretty flexible, highly customizable solution that can allow you to keep track of any assets of any kind, including different aspects of and attributes of those assets. I will move on to the oilfield purchase cycle. Again, that's the main focus of today's presentation, and I'm going to dive in a little bit deeper. What does it mean in case of RigER? So RigER is an operations management system, and the first slide that I wanted to kind of touch on is where does the purchase fits in with the overall picture. And the purchase that you can see on the left-hand side is a part of the overall solution, and it's not really a comprehensive diagram that shows what RigER can do, but it only gives you a snippet of what actually the system is designed and capable of doing. So purchasing is one of them, sub-rentals is another one, intercompany movements is another sub-module in the system, as well as the rental services and the sales. So there's different aspects of the business you can manage in RigER. And you can see the list of all the different modules that we offer on the right-hand side. But again, today we're going to be talking specifically on the purchasing and what the cycle of the purchases is. So I'm going to dive in a little bit deeper into the red rectangle that is on the left-hand side. So what is the cycle made of? So purchasing, as we all know, is designed as a function to make sure that you have full control of what you purchase, from whom you purchase, on what terms you purchase, and you enter the equipment into your inventory or make them the fixed assets in your overall books using the purchasing function. So it's an important and essential function of any organization. So what does it include, I guess? So in RigER, as in any ERP solution on any other accounting management solutions, so you can manage the vendor information. And usually the process starts with when you put through the purchase order request and then generate a purchase order based on that. So that's what we can easily streamline for you using RigER. And then a part of that process in the cycle includes the receiving an approval. So it's an important step that is also part of the process that is implemented in purchasing in RigER. So the next step in the process will be generating a bill of lading, where you acknowledge the receipt of the items, regardless of how many are received out of the order, and then you generate a purchase invoice, through which you're able then to see also what the accounts payable balance you have on your accounts, and can compare the received versus paid items in your inventory and the fixed assets list. So basically, in RigER, purchasing cycle includes all the key steps of managing both the vendor and the purchase process, from the beginning, such as the request, to the end, such as the invoice. So now when we look at the next slide, I just wanted to make sure that we also dive deep into not only the process, but who does things in RigER. And RigER is a multi-user system that allows us to set different level of the permissions in any process. And since we're focusing today on purchasing, we wanted to show you what kind of roles RigER allows to have in the system and which ones actually are part of the purchase process. And you can see that we usually start with creating a matrix and then identify who's doing what in the system in an organization, and then those people are allowed to do specific activities. So in this case, one type of a user is a PO requester. So usually those are the people that quite often are running in the field or running an operation, and then you need to make a purchase to complete the order or to perform an activity in your process. So that's one role in the beginning that happens of the purchasing process. The next role is the purchase order manager, or that's usually a person who provides an approval. And then the purchase manager is the third, the higher ranking official in the organization, who finally approves, sets the policies for how the purchasing has to be done, what the limits are, and all the different details. So these three roles are allowed to be set up in the system and then effectively control the purchase process. So now I'm going to pass the microphone to Gleb, who's going to dive deeper into the purchase module and explain what documents and the processes are used when you're following the purchase or when you're using, when they're doing the purchasing actually in RigER.
Thank you very much, Nikolai. Hi, everyone. My name is Gleb Kobets, and I'm VP of Operations in RigER. And Nikolai, thank you very much for this great introduction of the purchase model in RigER, because it was really interesting. So my purpose for today's webinar is just to give you a little bit more details about how we do purchases in RigER and to show you real documents in the system, and also to show you some automations, mobile applications of RigER doing the purchases, and also we'll cover the purchase reports that will help you analyze your purchase activities. So the first document with what we start with, as Nicola has already said, is the purchase order request. And this document is usually generated on the mobile application by the field personnel. Either it can be field tech or service tech or just a person who needs to purchase some equipment to perform his job. So as you can see, this screen is generated on the desktop application. So, but basically all the fields that you see here are available also on the mobile application. So the general purpose of the purchase order request is just to submit a request for the purchase to the purchase order manager. So in this document, the field personnel can specify the purpose of the purchase, and you can set different purposes in the system. It's absolutely up to you what you will set here. So there will be a drop-down list of different purposes. You can also specify the department for which this purchase will be performed, and indicate if this purchase is budgeted or not. You can also set the vendor from which you're going to purchase the equipment or tools or some kind of instruments, and specify the purchase order manager who is going to approve this purchase. Now, when the purchase order request is approved by the purchase manager, the purchase order is generated automatically out of the purchase order request. And in the purchase order itself, we specify particular items you see in the table below that we can enter and add any materials, any supplies, any consumables to the purchase order, specify the quantity that is going to be purchased, and the price of these individual line items. So once the purchase order is ready and it is posted and approved by the purchase order manager, we go to the next document, which is the bill of lading. So bill of lading, the main purpose of these documents is to accommodate and actually land all the items that are purchased into the system inventory. So with the bill of lading, we can receive the items arrived in a different quantities. It can vary from the purchase order quantities, because we can receive partially the equipment or the supplies that are coming in. And for one purchase order, we can have multiple bill of ladings in the system. And actually, as you can see on the right-hand side, there are two radio buttons, in and return. So when we receive the equipment or spare parts, we specify the in type of the bill of lading. But if we need to send back some kind of damaged equipment, maybe, we can do the return bill of lading, which will be the return of the equipment to the vendor. And we have a special report in the system that will allow you to understand the receipt of the ordered items. So this is the PO open balance report, which shows you how many items have you received already and how many has been ordered. So you see the open balance. That means that these quantities are going to be received in the future. So the final document in this sequence of the purchase module is the purchase invoice itself. So in the purchase invoice, you will be able to manually specify the purchase invoice number, which comes from the vendor. And also you're able to specify for how many items you're going to pay this invoice. Because again, it can be different situation when you receive partially and you pay partially, or you pay for several bill of ladings. So it can vary, and the system flexible for this purpose. So you can do as many documents in this one purchase cycle as you need. And again, to control your payments for the purchases, we have developed the PO control report, which again shows you how many have been received, what is the open balances of a particular date or a period of time, and how many we have already billed and paid for. So that report also shows you if you have exported your documents from RigER to your accounting system, but we will cover this topic a little bit later. Now, let me show you a few tools that allows you to automate your operations in terms of purchases in the system. And under the automation, I mean the operations that you perform much easily, and this automation allows you to reduce the risk of manual errors or just missing. So let me show you what I'm talking about. The first one is the fast purchase document. So what is the fast purchase in RigER? As you already may know, we have 3 documents in the system. But in order to perform these actions and generate these documents much quicker in the system, we have developed the fast purchase, which allows you with a one click of a button to generate all 3 documents at a time. So how it works, actually, let me show you on this quick demo video.
Let me show you the fast purchase document workflow. Fast purchase document allows you to generate 3 documents in a chain when you are using the purchase module in RigER: purchase order, purchase invoice, and bill of lading. To start your new fast purchase, click on Create button. Now you are prompted to enter the date of the fast purchase. You also need to enter the purchase invoice number, which is the original vendor's purchase invoice number, and select the vendor from which you are purchasing the goods, or materials, or rental units. Also, you need to select the tax scheme. You may also select the shop where this purchase will be delivered to, and select the delivery date. The next step is to enter the new items to the fast purchase document. You can do it by clicking on Add button and enter the items one by one. Then you can enter the number, the quantity of the units that you are gonna purchase, and the price of these materials. Let's add 2 more units. Now, when we have entered all the units, we can post this document to make it active in the system. And the final step on the fast purchase cycle is to click on Generate button. So when you click on this button, 3 documents are generated automatically: purchase order, purchase invoice, and bill of lading. If you want, you can check this document one by one by clicking on this link, or you can just post and close the fast purchase document, and your new items purchased are delivered to the system inventory.
So yeah, that was the quick demo of the fast purchase cycle. And usually our clients use the fast purchase tool when they want to accommodate items quickly in the system. So for example, if it was after the fact of the purchase, we can just look at the purchase invoice or just a simple receipt from the store and just to enter the fast purchase in the system. But if your purchase cycle is a little bit long lasting, so you can split these steps of the purchase cycle into different documents and generate them one by one on upon your actual receipt or payment of these purchases. So another great feature of RigER is a chargeback. So the chargeback feature is used when you need to reimburse some costs from your client if those costs are connected to a particular job. For example, if some equipment has been broken or you just need to service the equipment on the site and you need to buy, or your field personnel need to buy some additional supplies or spare parts, and you agreed with the client that you will be charging them with it. So you can do the chargeback document. And actually how it does, you generate the purchase invoice in RigER. So it is your incoming invoice from your vendor with spare parts. And then you can specify even the markup or just dollar amount that you mark the purchase invoice up with. And by clicking on the Generate DTs button, the delivery ticket will be generated for this particular client and even particular job. In this case, it's rental service agreement number, and a location is specified as well. So once the delivery ticket is generated, this cost will be flown to this ticket. And in the delivery ticket with the type service, you see all these materials and supplies with the amount that is marked up by your purchase manager. So that's the easier way how you can reimburse the cost from the client in the system. And this delivery ticket will be included in the final rental or service invoice for your client. So you don't need to issue a separate invoice for the parts that you have purchased. This ticket will be included in the final rental invoice for the client.
Thank you, Gleb. So we've come to roughly a middle part of our presentation today, and there's a chance for you guys to ask any questions about the purchase. And I know that it's kind of a dry subject. However, it's a very important, and I think it's an essential one. But I know that it's an essential one in any business process. And so feel free to send us any questions using the chat or the question and answer functionality on the toolbar. So we'll be able to answer any questions either right now or later on when we have another chance to do a Q&A. And I have actually one question from Patty. And the question was, can I split the incoming purchase orders and allocating and allocate only a part of it to a specific client?
Yes, it is possible in RigER. So once, as I already said, you can do this in both ways through the bill of lading. So you can split your incoming purchase order through in a separate bill of ladings. Or if we talk about the splitting the incoming parts into different clients, for example, we have requested and purchased 100 units of a particular instruments or tools or parts, but we need only 10 of those allocate to the client's job. So yes, we are able within the chargeback function to allocate only 10 items, and your client will be charged only with the 10 pieces of these materials.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Gleb. And there's another question from Laura. Returning to vendor, how do you do that?
Oh, that's a good question. And yeah, I have already shown this. So let me just go back to the bill of lading document. And here it is. So if you want to return some of the equipment that you have already purchased, you can generate, so you go back to the purchase order and you see the generate button. So once you click on that and you generate a new bill of lading, you just switch the type of this bill of lading to the return, and the system will perform the backward action on the background. So it will, so your returning equipment will be written off from your inventory in RigER, and you will have a document that will reference these actions. So you'll see that, okay, we have returned this equipment to your to our vendor.
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you very much. I guess I have my own question, but I'll hold on to that till the end of the presentation. Let's keep going. Thank you, Gleb.
Okay, good. So next hot topic that is pretty much expected from our existing clients and newer clients, our mobile oilfield purchase application that we have delivered just recently to our clients. And what does this application do is, actually it's very simple application designed only for the purchase purposes. So your field personnel can open this application, and they have only two documents, which are purchase order request and purchase order. And they can seamlessly and very simple generate a purchase order on their screen. So you see on the right hand side, that's a screen of the purchase order request. And they can specify all the details about the intended purchase. And then once they synchronize their application with the cloud database, this ticket will be sent for the approval to the purchase manager. He will approve, and then you'll receive the approved document back to your mobile application. And here's the quick video demo of this cycle. So let me just comment on that. So once we open the purchase application, we generate a new purchase order request, and we can specify the type of these expenses like OPEX or CAPEX. Then we can enter the comment. So we just comment what we're going to purchase. And once this ticket is done, we synchronize with the database, and the purchase order manager can take a look at all the details, can approve it, and submit back to the requester of this purchase through the synchronization of the mobile application. So as you can see, the purchase order and the purchase cycle can be done on the mobile application pretty easily. The only limitation is that the purchase invoice is not included in the mobile application, because that's usually the responsibility of the accounts payable accountant, and he or she will be able to do that on their desktop application of RigER. So that's how the purchase mobile application works. And if you want to try this, just give us a shout, and we'll provide you an access to this application so you can test it and tell us what you're probably missing in that, or you just give us some ideas about how we can improve that. And the best scenarios usually for us is just the client scenarios, when they tell us how they utilize this in their real life. So the application is designed specifically for business purposes. Okay, and we're coming to the next part of this webinar, which is the purchase reports. That's the essential part of the general cycle of purchasing, because in the cycle of purchasing, we need to analyze what had been purchased, because sometimes there are dozens of people who do purchases in the company, and they should be accountable for that. And the accountant should understand at what stage the purchases are, and how much and what is the accounts payable account on the books is. So for this purpose, we have, first of all, the rental unit turnover report shows you all the movements of the equipment. In this case, it's serialized equipment, and how many we have at the beginning of the period of the report, how many we have purchased, and how many we have sold during this period, and the ending balance for sure. So that's just a quick overview. Next report is the inventory purchases, and that report shows it is grouped by vendors, and it shows by each individual items how many we have purchased and what was the dollar amount of these purchases. So we can go and click on a particular document number and just to check the details of this document, or maybe to change something. The other report is the inventory turnover report. It's pretty much similar to the rental unit turnover report, but it shows you the items that are not serialized. Usually it's consumables, parts, or some supplies. And it shows you by document, again, what have been purchased or what have been expensed or just consumed through the delivery or field ticket. So once we deliver these parts to the client side for the, for example, maintaining the equipment, these parts can be included in the field ticket as materials, and in this way it's consumed in the system, so your closing balance is reduced appropriately.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you very much, Gleb. I think reports are very important, and ability to actually analyze information on any part of the system, and including the purchasing, is key. And I think the key thing is that we've seen now in many users is that the more people are using the reports, the more different reports can appear in the system. So feel free to let us know what kind of reports might be useful for you on the purchasing side. We might as well just consider adding those as well. So what we, as in the next and closing part of our presentation today, we wanted to basically touch base and highlight some of the key recommendations that relate to the purchase using the purchasing modules in RigER, and how RigER works and transfers information, because it's important to understand that RigER is an operations management system. And as we mentioned at the very beginning, our philosophy and our belief is that we are basing ourselves and our strengths is just to be able to integrate our information stored and collected in RigER with other applications. And hence, that's where we see the biggest sort of benefit of using not one instead of the other, but several systems in place where information flows from one to another one. So the best practice as far as the purchasing goes is that we know that some of you may have preferences using an accounting system of your choice, and that's exactly where the integration comes in. So we recognize that it's important for you to do the accounting reports, the taxes, the P&L, and all the other financial statements in the accounting system, but you need to have the information. And RigER as an operations management system is recommended to be used to keep track of all the rental equipment and parts, whether they're fixed assets or whether they're inventory. So both of those categories of items you can effectively keep track of and purchase through the purchase module, and then use throughout your operations cycle. And then when you generate an invoice in RigER, then or a purchase order or any other document, financial document, then that document can be easily transferred through the seamless integration indeed, through an export button into the financial system, whether it's a QuickBooks or it's a Sage, or it's a more advanced system such as Microsoft Dynamics Business Central or a SAP Concur that we've developed integrations with. So basically, that's where you would keep your indirect expenses in the accounting system, but all the direct expenses and the fixed assets or the inventory items will be kept in RigER. So that's the that's the dividing line as well as the connecting line between the two pieces of information. So you'll get the correct ops in RigER, but the all correct financials in your accounting system, and that's how you will live a happy life in the end, having happy accountant or controller with all the data, and a happy operations manager who has the full information about their operations and their fleet. And here on the left-hand side, you can see what the export function looks like in RigER. Basically, purchase documents such as invoice can be, or purchase orders can be exported. Information from those documents can be effectively exported from RigER into an accounting system, and that's how you will get all the information without the or in error-free fashion, without any manual entry. So information goes from one system into another, and then it fills your chart of accounts in the accounting system, and then everybody gets the full, transparent, and correct information between both the operations and accounting departments. So that's our recommendation. So use RigER for your operations, both for the consumables and the fixed assets such as equipment and parts. And for the accounting, use an accounting application, because that's the best bet for you to make sure that you're compliant with all the requirements on the financial and accounting side. So that was a quick one, and so here we've come to the final stage of our presentation, where we'd like to hear more from you as far as the questions and answers. And just please do feel free to use that Q&A bar or Q&A function rather, and send us your questions. The question that I had though was about the mobile application and the desktop. So again, it's something that comes up, and I just wanted for Gleb to sort of comment on that. So our cloud works online, and the mobile works both online and offline. So how do you? I guess the question is that how do we make sure that information is synchronized? So what do we? Can you sort of how does the synchronization work? That's what I want to do, kind of get, because when you're in the field, you created a purchase request. How do you send information out for their purchase manager to make sure that they receive it and approve it in a timely fashion? Because I may be sitting somewhere or next to a store, and I need to get an approval for that purchase. How do I do that through the mobile application?
Good question, and actually the solution and the answer is pretty simple. So once you're using the mobile application, you'll be able to do that in both offline and online mode. So you'll be able to generate a new purchase order request or even a purchase order on your mobile app. Once you're connected to the internet, you just hit the synchronization button in your mobile application, and the information flows to the cloud storage. So everything is stored in the cloud, so you don't need to exchange some information through the different external services. So everything is integrated and built in. So you just hit in synchronization, information flows to the cloud, and the person who is sitting in the office with his desktop application, he can see that almost instantaneously. So in a few moments, it will appear on his desktop application. So he can look up at the different details, maybe to change something, or just to enter additional comments for the field personnel, submit this ticket back to the field personnel. He synchronizes the mobile application back, and he receives this approved. So it's pretty straightforward, and the most important part when using the mobile application is just to not forget to synchronize your application with the cloud.
Mm-hmm. Okay, perfect. So all the communication goes through the mobile application, RigER mobile application, and then you communicate either to another RigER mobile application for the purchasing, or you communicate to the cloud as well, to the people who are in the office.
Correct.
Thank everyone for joining us today, and we probably will wrap up right now, hoping that you will send us your questions over the email or call us up. All the contact information is on our website, rigger.us or rigger.ca. We're more than happy to hear from you.
Okay, thank you very much, Nikolai, as well, and thank you everyone for participating in today's webinar. So we're glad to hear you and to see you each week when we are doing our webinars. So stay tuned and subscribe to our email list and for the next webinars update. Thank you very much, and have a great day.
Yes, indeed. Thank you very much, and have a great day indeed. Thanks. Bye-bye.